CRM was supposed to improve customer relationships. Instead, it's shorthand for can't resolve much. Which means you may have sunk a fortune into software that just bounces customer issues around but never actually solves them. On the ServiceNow AI platform, CRM stands for something better. With AI built into one platform, customers aren't mired in endless loops of automated indifference. They get what they need, when they need it. Bad CRM was then. This is ServiceNow.
Welcome back to another episode of Eagles Edge. I'm Eagles Eric, and today I'm going to be talking about the Eagles-Bucs game. And I'm going to take it a little differently this week, and as people start to filter in, of course, we'll always answer questions, so I invite those as they come in. But I'm going to walk through my matchup sheet, and then that'll kind of lead into some talking points about the game. If anyone is interested, I posted this on Twitter, so let me get that up here on the screen. All right. So Eagles traveled down to Raymond James Stadium, a place where there's been a lot of heartache, a lot of tough matchups. But people will know A.J. Brown has essentially missed 4 of the 5 games that the Eagles have played the Bucs since he's been an Eagle. And obviously he's a key cog in the Eagles offense. Additionally, the last time they're also missing Devontae and Lane Johnson. And I think the Eagles' record without Lane Johnson, they have almost double the amount of losses as wins. So I'm throwing those out. I'm not really looking at what happened to predict what's going to happen this time. The Bucs are coming in with a lot of injuries, and we'll get into that later in the episode. But I'll kind of just go over some overall stats, and that'll lead us into some talking points. As always, if you throw in questions in the chat, how's it going? And Little. I'm a big fan of Eagles season. Eagles better kick Tampa Bay's butts. So Eagles, like last year, they were the most run-heavy team in the league. This year, they're 27th, and obviously that's a little bit skewed because they were down to the Rams. And so they had to pass more, but the Bucs, they're kind of in the middle of the pack, and they're a team that they want to establish the run. You'll see it on early downs. Like, they do run a decent bit of, they run some under center, they run some shotgun runs, but you could see they're still pretty heavy shotgun, 18th in the league. The Eagles are 6th. Now, the funny thing is, this has been a talking point, which is the Eagles, they're tipping off their run plays by their formations, by their personnel packages. This will be a key area that I'm going to be looking for in this game is, can we get into some shotgun spread sets and run the ball? Last year, there was a heavy dose of zone read, inside zone from shotgun, and it was effective. You're facing often 6-man boxes out of those sets. And if you get a 7-man box, then you guaranteed have a one-on-one on the outside. So QB design runs should be on the menu this week. It's one way to combat pressure. But this is something Deniz put on Twitter, which is the Eagles did not have a single gap scheme run last week against the Rams. And this is something that was highly successful for them. In fact, I believe 3 of their long touchdowns against the Rams last year were on gap scheme runs, including the Hurts play in the playoffs. So why they aren't running that, I don't know. In the modern NFL, I don't know if there are any run games that are successful that don't mix in both zone and gap scheme. And for those who are not sure what I'm referring to is zone, everyone's essentially blocking in a direction. They don't have a defined assignment. Gap scheme, the running back has a defined area which they're targeting. They're going to run in a specific gap, and the blockers are coordinating in relation to that. Often you'll see that paired with pulling linemen like counter or power. So we're not seeing that as much. I would like to see more gap scheme. I will say, you're seeing a little bit more of Saquon, the Giants version, where he's not quite hitting the hole north and south. It's a little bit more of this jitterbug stuff, which is understandable because he's getting contacted behind the line so frequently, but it's not conducive to success. Penalties, actually, the Bucs, if you look at last week, watching the game, it was absolutely brutal against the Jets. The first half, a flag every other play. It was absurd. So they're 23rd, averaging nearly 9 penalties per game. Notable for the Eagles, they don't draw a lot of penalties. They're 30th in penalties drawn. It was actually something that was also true last year. Yes, it can be part of like what kind of plays you're actually running. But you would think that there would be more like players holding Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, but that's not getting called. Turnovers, the Bucs have yet to turn the ball over. That's actually a factor in why they're 3-0. Edge Tucker says, "What's up? Hey, how's it going?" As you guys get in here, throw questions in the chat. But Baker, he's thrown a bunch of passes that could have been intercepted. Every year he has a bunch of interceptions, essentially. So I think he's due for sure. And I predict he will have an interception this week. His most interceptable passes tend to be on those 15 to 25-yard passes. Given that, I think the most likely candidate would be Cooper DeJean, especially because they mix all their receiving options into the slot. Godwin, Egbuka, and Shepard all play out wide and in the slot. So that's where I see the chance for a turnover. Looking into their coverage mix, you'll see they're super high in cover 3, well above the league average. After that, they play some man and some cover 4. Now, listen, these are general descriptors of the coverage shells, but there's many versions of each coverage. For example, cover 2, you can have a standard cover 2, or you could have Tampa 2, or you could rotate and have non-traditional Tampa where players who are typically not filling the hole in the middle center are rotating like from the side or from any different direction. So this doesn't necessarily tell you exactly how they play, but you can see they're heavy in blitzes. In fact, their blitz rate, I think, might be 3rd in the NFL. It depends what charting service you look at. Bowles blitzes on first down. He's way up there, top 5 in the league. 2nd in medium, he's up there, I think, top 10 in the league. 3rd down, heavy blitz rate over 50% on 3rd and medium and 3rd and long, which is maybe tops in the league. So he loves blitzing. This isn't groundbreaking news. They completely sunk the Eagles offense, who was without AJ Brown, without Devontae Smith, blitzing them last year. A play I brought up where they had a screenplay to Paris Campbell, threw directly at the blitz, but Bulls rotated a linebacker behind it, ended up going for like a 1-yard gain. So all that to say, the answers to the blitz, it's not like you can just say, all right, we're going to throw go balls, we're going to throw slants every time. And Hurts has played quickly and confidently against the blitz because the menu has been so limited, and I understand that approach. But I think they need to be multifaceted. Number one, because he'll bring a different types of blitzes. Now, when Bowles blitzes, he tends to bring 6. A lot of teams, they'll bring 6 or 7 in the line, rush 5, and then drop a couple guys. They're pretty low in 5-man rush rates. Like when he blitzes, he likes to blitz. And I did a study in the offseason, which is looking at how much faster, like how much you speed up the quarterback when you bring extra guys. And the 5-man rush is barely better than a 4-man rush, where a 6 is, the ball is going to come out quick almost every time. And the reason is a standard scat protection where you just have 5-on-5. Yes, it's 1-on-1s, but everyone's accounted for. Whereas if you bring 6, even if they leave a running back or a tight end in, well, you can overload one side. Well, now you have someone who has to come across the formation to block someone. And Saquon, he did struggle in pass protection. Now, if it were me, I wouldn't want him to stay in to block frequently because they blitz from so many different areas that in the time it takes for him to scan and pick up where the most dangerous rusher is, they might already be in on Hurts. What I would recommend is he feigns like he's going to block, and then he just pops out for a pass. And one of the reasons the Eagles may not run many over-the-ball routes with Saquon is they have a shorter quarterback, a huge offensive line, and a shorter running back. That just can make it challenging to hit that because there's a lot of traffic in there between the offensive line, defensive line. So there's going to need to be some loft on that pass likely. We saw earlier in the season, was it against the Chiefs, where they had a play like this. Hurts kind of gunned it, and then Saquon dropped it. It might have been last week. So the Falcons did it with Bijan, and they kind of got him working out wide. So he only went over like the tackle. He didn't have to go over the middle of the line. And that's what I would recommend. The Bucs tend to leave the flats pretty vacant when they blitz. Now, they also will tell their players, you're rushing, but if that quarterback turns and he's going to get rid of it right away, abandon your blitz and go and get whoever they're throwing to, whether it's a screen, a swing pass, whatever it may be. You're responsible for that. So you can't telegraph it. You need to let them rush upfield, get close to you, and then boop, pop it right over them, get Saquon in space, and I think you can do damage. They're going to blitz the heck out of the Eagles. I guarantee it. Little chart here for air yard density. Just the way to read this is the solid line is the offense where they tend to throw. And you'll notice the Bucs are way up in vertical passing game. In fact, they've doubled their rate so far from last year. Baker's chucking it deep. Obviously, a lot of times to Mike Evans, but even getting Egbuka involved, who looks phenomenal. Evans being out is going to be a big hindrance, in my opinion. Now, they may be getting Godwin back, which helps, but he's not nearly the vertical threat that Evans is. And obviously, with the way the Eagles play defense, they're seeing a ton of passes in this, 4 to 8 yard area. When you're playing like a lot of too high quarters based stuff, you're going to funnel passes into that area. And where the Bucs, they tend to throw like more than their fair share of these 15 to 25 yard passes. Well, the Eagles take that away often. So this is where I think the interception will happen. Baker Mayfield, a 15 to 25 yard pass and into coverage. And that could be a safety who's helping on a crosser. And they run quite a bit of those, or that could be just DeJean kind of having good eyes in some kind of quarter flat type coverage. On the other side, the Bucs are seeing mostly what the Eagles are throwing, but the Eagles have eschewed the mid-range, as a lot of people know, so far this year. And they've run some concepts that would attack that area, but they're just not there. You run a two-man concept, and their really common one is a wrap in, or it could be called bow or hammer, where you just have a little hitch, call it 5 to 7 yards, and then you've got a deep in behind it. But what teams have done is when they play too high, the safety on the side of the in, he's just clamping down on that in route, which generally that in route's underneath him, over top of the linebackers, in between the window. But if the safety cheats down, then you got nothing. So what the Eagles did against the Chiefs is they had a couple routes where they went in bender. Oh, we're going back out, but the safety just stayed over the top. So it was a great idea, but it just didn't happen to work in those situations. All right, got some comments here. Cali Eagles fan, less condensed formations, and we saw they started to open it up last week in the second half to great effect. I don't think condensed formations are conducive to success with the Eagles skill sets. A little bit, yeah. Like, I wouldn't say only run spread, but they're like majoring in condensed formations doesn't make much sense. A lot of the teams that are majoring in condensed formations are like running a ton of under center play action and stuff like that, C gap inserts, and that's just not the Eagles play style. Do you guys think Quignon follows Egbuka with Evans out? Well, remember, Godwin is probably back. And I mentioned it earlier, which is Godwin, Egbuka, and Shepard, they all go inside and out. So automatically that makes it tough for a cornerback to go in shadow. Now, there was a time where Mitchell followed Adams into the slot. So Fangio kind of fibbed on that. He said it was just when they're outside, but you could see blatantly a rep where Adams was in the slot and Mitchell was in the slot over him. So I don't expect that. Adoree will be interesting to see if Adoree is out there. One thing I want to mention, backing up here, is that although the Eagles did tend to spread it out more in the second half, AJ played more in the slot. So did Devontae. So that's an interesting thing. Like, I like those guys in the slot. I just don't like when everyone is tight to the formation. I don't expect Godwin to be his usual self. Yeah, it's impossible to say. And actually, the Bucs have been very cryptic about injuries. They told their reporters, do not say who's practicing at which position on the offensive line, because Wirfs may be coming back. Okay, he's going to play left tackle. Well, Graham Barton was playing tackle. Now, is he going to move in the center, or is he going to go to right tackle? Regardless, they're going to have some weaknesses. It's just going to depend on where they decide to put those weaknesses. And I'll say this. I think Graham Barton kind of maybe stinks as a tackle, but he may be like a really good center or potentially a pretty good guard. So it'll be interested to see what they do. They've really struggled blocking over the left guard position, and that's not going to change. Getting into some team stats here. EPA per play, pretty similar. Eagles just above average, and Tampa Bay's defense as well. Very notable matchup here, strength on strength. Eagles rush offense, EPA per play, first in the NFL. Now people go, what the heck? Saquon's 3.3 yards per carry. Their rushing offense stinks. How could they be first EPA? Well, it's Hurts. Remember, he scrambled like a demon in the first game. Tush push, rushing touchdowns. And Saquon did have a few nice runs against Chiefs. So it is a little bit surprising, but look, Bucs are number one against the run. And as I will get into it a little bit, Servassier Dennis is a linebacker who struggles mightily in coverage, but he's actually been really good in run stuffing. The way they play downhill, blitzing a lot, it's conducive to stopping the run. They also are good tacklers, even on the edge, like McCollum and then Winfield when he spins down as a safety. They're good tacklers, and they've been unbelievable against the run. Now, it's notable, they played the Falcons, the Jets, and Texans. Across those set, it's not exactly a vaunted rushing game, but neither have the Eagles been. The Eagles need to get the ground game going in this game because the Bucs, they have a million different pressures in third and medium, third and long. You cannot live with consistently trying to convert on those downs. The Eagles have a very low first down conversion rate, like getting a first down on first down, whereas top offenses, they're over 20%. The Eagles are way under that. They're trying to get yards on first down, but they're rarely getting first downs. I think they need to try to be a little bit more greedy on first downs. And if they get backed up in their own territory, that's not an excuse. Like, I think Patullo used that as an excuse in the press conference. Like, I don't care if you start on your own 12 or your own 25. Like, to me, that should not dictate the play calling at all. Sack rate, despite them pressuring a lot, their sacks are not that high, because I think part of it is teams are anticipating the pressure, so they're getting the ball out. But if you look at their pass EPA per play, it hasn't been that effective. But like we said, the Jets, Texans, and Atlanta, those passing offenses have not been good. Everything needs to be contextualized statistically, especially with such a small sample size. So just think about, this is what they did against like 3 kind of bad offenses. Third downs, Eagles were like number 1 in the league last year. Now they're closer to middle of the pack. That's going to need to pick up. Eagles were tops in the league or close to it in explosives, maybe behind Ravens last year. Now they're way down near the bottom. And that's why they keep harping on it in the press conferences. There's opportunities. Like I said, Servassier Dennis alone gave up like 6 out of their 10 explosives. Unbelievable. Eagles, strength on strength, red zone defense, red zone offense. That's actually kept the Eagles afloat. All right, got some comments in here. Baker's scrambles are raising their rush success. Oh, okay. Well, so we're getting into Bucs offense now. So if you look, their rush success is actually terrible. Their rush EPA. This is Bucs offense. You'll see a lot of times they're running Bucky Irving in it's 2 or 3 yards and a cloud of dust, and that's a failure in most down and distances by EPA. Remember, a success is when it's positive EPA. That's all it is. So they've struggled. Actually, Rachaad White has been better as a runner between the tackles. When they've gotten Irving out in space a couple times, hitting him on some passes, that's where he's really done some damage, and he's very hard to tackle in the open field. But when it's a phone booth, he offers nothing. It's like Shipley. As soon as he contacted, he goes down, and he doesn't have anywhere to go. So, yeah, I'm like, if they're running in between the tackles, I think the Eagles can manage with 6, especially if one of those 6 is Jordan Davis. Eagles sack rate 29th in the NFL. And part of that is because they faced a bunch of quarterbacks who are either really good at avoiding sacks or getting the ball out really quickly. But you're going to need to see more from the edges. I mean, does Mailata feel funny now calling Jalix Hunt shades of Micah, and he's done almost nothing in the pass rush department? It's a little bit disappointing, but Zadarius Smith, if Tristan Wirfs is coming back, I guarantee he will do nothing. Tristan Wirfs almost never lets up anything to anyone, let alone a 30-something-year-old rusher. So whoever's on the other side, whether it's Uche or Hunt, we're going to need some out of them. Now, that's actually interesting because before, I do believe Smith was playing more where Hunt was playing. So maybe they're going to put Smith on the other side, then he actually could have success. If they put Graham Barton at right tackle, I think Smith will smoke him. So it'll just be interesting to see what the matchups, how they materialize. This is just getting into some of the depth chart stuff. Like Godwin looks like he's going to probably play. Wirfs looks like he's probably going to play. I should revise this because Evans is out. I just speculated that Graham Barton will play center because that's where he's best at, and they'll roll with Heck at tackle. But they could move Barton out, and then they've got another guy that they could plug into center. Lane Johnson looks like he's going to come back, which is huge for the Eagles. Keep an eye, 2 guys on the Eagles. Dory Jackson looks like he might play, and that's significant. Now, I'm curious just to see Keeley in general, but it looks like Jackson might be healthy. Campbell is another guy. I am actually worried maybe he won't play, and then you might probably going to see Trotter. All right. So I'll take some questions and then we'll get into kind of my preview a little bit more. Aziz talked about how they're going to be disciplined in their rush lanes. Yeah, it's clear Fangio is cognizant of how much damage Baker's done on the ground. It's kind of funny, like, I guess he just doesn't have this reputation like some of the other scramblers, but he's a huge scrambler. Not only like buying time to try to make plays downfield, but just overtly running. He's faster than everyone thinks he is. He's much more shifty than people think he is. At this point in his career, he's shiftier than Hurts. He'll juke guys in the open field regularly. Hurts essentially never does that anymore. So most of his scrambles, he tends to go up the middle. So it's not a lot of time. Like Hurts, his scrambles, it's like bailing out to the right and then running more often, unless it's like against the blitz and he sees a seam there. So the interior is going to really need to stress their rush lane integrity. And there's no purpose of rushing like super vertical and wide for the edge rushers. Like I'd rather them just be pocket condensers against Baker. Because if he tries to scramble, like he gets happy feet and then there's not a lot of room to go, that's where he can panic, throw interceptions, take sacks, and so on. Got some questions here. Tim asked, how do you foresee our injuries affecting the game as per the latest injury report? And let me just bring up the injury report here. So this is as of yesterday. Let's see it as of today. Okay. So limited participation, Bond, Campbell, Adoree Jackson. When you are a limited participant on Thursday, that's generally a fairly good sign that you'll play. Then you'll generally see like full practice Friday and then they're going to play. If it's like limited Thursday, Friday, then you start to be a little bit worried. So I'm going to be looking tomorrow. That's going to be a big deal. Lane Johnson was a full participant, which is huge. So I don't know, like for whatever reason, my early feeling is that Bond will definitely play. Campbell, I would say he's more questionable. Adoree Jackson's probably questionable as well. And that's a groin for Adoree, by the way. To answer your question, how do I foresee it affecting the game? Well, it depends. Like if Jackson's out, I think they're going to play more split field coverage to Ringo's side, which puts a safety over top of him, allow him to play more aggressive underneath. And this is also important because the only coverage that the Bucs have a negative EPA against is cover 6. So that's cover 2 to one side, cover 4 to the other side. And the Eagles run a fair bit of split coverage. So I expect to see that. Why is that? First off, it's small sample size. But let's just say that there is some signal there. Baker, he's quick in everything. Like he's got quick footwork, quick eyes, quick delivery, everything. So if he looks, let's say you have like 2 different coverage beaters. One side beats one coverage, like man coverage. The other side beats zone coverage. Well, he could hike it, say, I'm eliminating that side. And then he has full faith that this side's going to be open, but it's a different coverage on that side. All of a sudden I have an interception. So let me go even further with my prediction. If he throws an interception, it's going to be 15 to 25 yards downfield to either the DeJean or one of the safeties on a split field coverage. And yeah, I'm writing in my article here that he's overdue for a pick. And he does get the ball out faster than league average. You'll see a lot of, I think a lot of that can be credited to the screens. They run quite a bit of screens against the blitz. And I actually do expect Fangio to run some sim pressures at least. And for those who don't know, that's when you are bringing 4, but one of the 4 or multiple are coming from the second or third level, and then a defensive lineman is replacing them in coverage. They like to run a lot of these in-bending routes from the slot which to me is the most effective way to combat any type of pressure. I wish the Eagles did more of that. And actually, Devin Jackson had a nice thread showing that the Bucs have been victimized on those exact type of plays, like crossers from players who were lined up in condensed alignments pre-snap, like whether it's a switch release or just kind of running across, and they've gotten beaten at least 4 or 5 times on that. So hopefully the Eagles are ready to combat the blitz in that way. The Bucs, they run a fair bit of 3-by-1, but that might change because they like to isolate Mike Evans. So who are they really wanting to isolate outside? Like Egbuka, he has had some really nice downfield catches, but like I just don't necessarily see him as like a consistent ball winner downfield outside the numbers. More of like an intermediate guy who can find voids and zones. So we'll see. Regardless, Baker will take his shots. This guy is a true gunslinger. He's obsessed with trying to like throw perfectly thrown balls like down the sidelines, and he's done a good job of it. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. They've been extremely effective in 11 personnel. They've been utilizing it over 70% of the time, which is fairly high, and with the 6th highest EPA. So anyone who's used it as much as them or nearly as much as them, they have been much lower ranked in EPA out of that personnel. But once again, when one of those guys is Mike Evans, it goes a long way. I can't like state enough how important Mike Evans is to Mayfield. He just trusts him implicitly in any coverage. One thing I've seen on film is that Bond and DeJean, they gamble more Bond, but sometimes DeJean, like they'll gamble for interceptions, and it's reading the quarterback's eyes, and I have no problem with that. But it's not always that. Sometimes it's just learning tendencies from film study. But their offensive coordinator, Grizzard, he's already shown a couple tendency breakers to good effect, even within the same game. So you don't want to overcommit to that. They might have some eye candy, and like Stafford and Mahomes both manipulated Bond pretty badly on a couple plays. And like, yes, I'm fine with him cheating because an interception matters way more than like a 15-yard pass, but you don't want to get carried away with that. Like, I still think there's merit to sound defense, especially when the Eagles are the better team. Sterling Shepard is a underappreciated receiver who has a lot of trust with Mayfield. A lot of like third downs, he've gone to him. He's really good. Like, he's just a good route runner. He's quick. He's got good hands. Another guy who stunk on the Giants, and then as soon as he got out of there, he looked a lot better. Kind of surprising. The screens, they love to run screens, but the Eagles have been good against heavy screen teams. Just those guys like, DeJean and Bond, they're just so vigilant. When they, like, a lot of teams will run screens out of bunch and stack looks, and that'll invite the nickel up into some kind of like press alignment, and then he can defeat the receiver block 9 times out of 10. I got some comments in here. Are Ogbo and Aziz both going to be active? I don't know. I think they'll go with 4 probably. They might neither of them might be active. They might just put Patrick Johnson in with Za'Darius, Hunt, and Uche. And Uche's got a fair bit of first down snaps, which is surprising because I don't necessarily see him as a run stuffer. Is there a reason Nolan Smith doesn't get off the ball like other speed rushers when he tries to anticipate the snap? I guess you're talking about his slow get off time. It's more about the way the Eagles front plays, which is in neutral downs, they have to be playing the run first. But if you isolated it for third down passing situations or like second and longs, his get off would skyrocket. Are the Bucs legit, or they just play terrible teams? I think they're one of those teams where they can beat anyone, but
your season, your shot. The NFL season is rolling, and every touchdown can bring you closer to a payout with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. From first touchdown score to anytime touchdown props or the thrill of live in-game betting, every snap is loaded with opportunity. And this one is specifically for new customers who can bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Plus over $200 off of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code PINPULL. That's code PINPULL to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you place your first $5 bet. Plus over $200 off of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That is 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort, Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Fees may apply in Illinois. Void in Ontario. Bonus bet expires 7 days after issuance. See sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos. NFL Sunday Ticket offer for new subscribers only and auto renews until canceled. Digital games and commercial use excluded. Restrictions apply. Additional NFL Sunday Ticket terms at youtube.com/go/NFL Sunday Ticket /terms. Limited time offer.
I don't see them as I don't see them as a tier 1 or probably not even a tier 2 team. I think they are a good, not great team who can just win in any given week. They could probably lose to any team as well, especially with the volatility of Baker. They've got a couple shaky players on defense and they're injured. Now, when they get everyone back, maybe they look way better. And then I could say, oh, they're a legit contender. I think team play overall, national analysts, I think I've been way too high on. They're a good team. But one thing I should say is you have to score points to win. And Bowles is just a thorn in the side of the Eagles offense. And he's probably going to blitz at least 15 times. I see no possible scenario in which it's not a above average blitz game. He loves the blitz by his nature, and he knows the Eagles have struggled at times against the blitz. Now, if you just look at their cover 0 EPA this year, the Eagles have been tremendous because they got a couple deep bombs, but it hasn't been sunshine and rainbows. And they're going to need, to me, there's two things I would focus on if I was the Eagles offensive coordinator coming into this game is let's get the ground game going, especially in spread sets, running zone read, quarterback design runs, inside gap scheme type stuff, and having a big menu against the blitz. First down, third down, expect it blitz every single time, and you need to have an answer. Your answer just can't be, oh, I'm throwing a speed out, a slant, or a go every single time. I want to see swing passes, tunnel screens, quick in-bending routes to players in the slot alignments, even a draw play or QB design run. Switch releases is another big one because if they put man coverage behind their blitzes, that can cause big problems. When they run zone behind it, what they tend to like if you're hot quarters, for example, you'll have generally 6 men blitzing, 1 guy in the middle, and then 4 guys just at equal depth over the top, and they're just covering their area. It's kind of like a true zone. And then they're just kind of sitting on any passes underneath and they're going to drive on it because they know the ball's going to come out quick. If you could only pick one thing you want to see from the Eagles game on both sides of the ball, what would it be? So on offense, I want to see spread sets and getting the run game going against light boxes, because that is something that will carry into the rest of the season, and you can reasonably expect it for there's only so many things you can do. If you put four receiving threats out wide, either you're going to have a 6-man box or you're going to have no help with Devontae or AJ. No matter what, it's a tough battle. But we haven't even made them make that choice so far. On the defensive side, I would say I think they need to hold the edge a little bit better. And I watched it, and it looked like the Rams just beat them to the edge. Like, if DeJean was the player responsible, he was getting sealed off. And they were, like, getting outnumbered. Like, they'd have a receiver, a tight end, like 3 extra guys over to the left, and then, like, two of them are just double teaming DeJean, sealing him off, 0 people to fill in behind him. Like, you can't just get outnumbered. The number one thing is make sure you have the numbers. If you have the numbers, make sure you win the leverage. And then if you win the leverage, make sure you make the tackle. So they were getting outnumbered. They're getting out leveraged, and they're missing tackles. I've got a bunch of other questions in here. All right. That was a good question. Thanks, Callie. Jay says, do you think Jalen Carter will be a big factor this week? Now, it's notable that the Bucs have given up a ton of pressure. I want to make sure I get the stat correct here. The Bucs have given up a ton of pressure in their interior. All right, here it is. So I'm going to share this so you guys can all see what I'm looking at. One of my buddies, Anthony Reinhardt, who does some really great NFL stats and visualization work, put this up, which is quarterback pressure rate allowed by the alignment of the defensive players. So, over the left tackle, over the right tackle, so on and so forth. Orange means above league average. Blue means below. So looking at the Eagles over here, Landon Dickerson, DT over the left guard, higher than average pressure rate. Actually, Steen looks pretty good. Now that a lot of that is like, oh, Juergens is helping Steen, Dickerson one-on-one, but he's obviously not been full health. But going over to the Buccaneers, if you look at this, over their right guard, above league average. So guess where Jalen Carter lines up? So that's why I think if I'm the Bucs, I'm going to put Graham Barton in center, and I'm going to help on Carter. And then I've got Wirfs over at left tackle. But if they put Barton at right tackle, watch out. It could be a field day for the interior defensive lineman. All right. What do I think about the Bucs secondary? They're good. A lot of people crapping on Jamal Dean early on, and they were forcing him to take a huge pay cut, and he did it. And he looks good. Now, against the Texans, he fell down like at least 5 times. Very bizarre, and I don't know if what it was, like what caused that. But when he doesn't fall down, like, he's still good in coverage. He's really fast. I don't know why some people think he's slow because he's maybe a little bit older, but he was a true 4-3 guy coming out, and he hasn't lost much. McCollum is an up-and-coming corner. He just got a big payday, and he's really solid. He got beat once down the deep sideline to Nico Collins, who's one of the best receivers in the NFL. But overall, he's good, physical, fast. Obviously, they coach up the DBs well. And Winfield is back. Remember last year, like, he was battling injuries. He missed a lot of time and struggled mightily. Looks like he's back to his like Pro Bowl form, and he's a really great player. So yeah, their secondary's very good. The other guy, Tyke Smith, he's solid. They'll play him in the box quite a bit. Really good tackler. Seems like he's got a good football IQ. He was a Georgia guy. So yeah, they're good. Jacob Parrish is a rookie from Kansas State, a guy I like. The Eagles had a 30 visit with him. He's another guy who looks really good. So I think they've got good players, and they coach them really well. So it's a good secondary. I guess this was about Sterling Shepard. I didn't think he sucked on the Giants. Yeah, he didn't suck, but you can just see. He had a lot more volume back then because they didn't have many people to throw to. But he actually isn't quite an effective player when targeted. And you could see it last year. Like, he was the first player who absolutely burned Quinyon. And one of the reasons they changed their cushion. So going into the Bucs game, they were like playing 10 yards off. It was like a 10-yard speed out, and Quinyon was like 7 yards away at the catch. Like, it was the easiest catch I've ever seen. And then I think the week after that, like, they were back up to like 7 yards, and the rest is history. So credit Sterling Shepard. What's up, Gio? He asks, what do you think the score will be? Well, I predicted 23-16. Now, if you tell me like Godwin comes in and is full or is close to full health, and Wirfs plays, and they put Graham Barton as center, and they all of a sudden they have a run game to the interior and to the left side, I think the Bucs will score more than 16. But if they like play Barton at right tackle out of necessity, and they still don't have the interior run game, and Godwin isn't full health, and they're trying to put together like methodical drives, I think their offense will stall out and probably kick a bunch of field goals. What is up with the run game? Ask Drip Drip. A Saquon problem, or an OC problem, or a line problem? I mean, it's a loaded question. Everything is an amalgamation of a lot of factors, and even beyond ones not listed there, like opponent formation, so on and so forth. But the way I would characterize it is the Eagles have been inviting a lot of players into the box. They have had more than their fair share of losses at the point of attack. Even last week, you saw Steen losing bad. Juergens had a couple bad losses. Dickerson and even Mailata in the run game. Like, they're asking him to reach block. He's supposed to get a little help from Dickerson. He doesn't. All of a sudden, he's getting completely upended, and the run fails. So the line, 100% the line struggled. But where's the gap scheme? Like, they need to get more multiple in the run game. They need to spread out teams so the boxes are lighter. Yes, Saquon is not running as good, even with the exact same stuff in front of him. Times where his vision has been off. Times where he has got a lane and then ran into the defender because it's like, oh, finally I'm breaking free. And he did his Giants crap where he starts trying to shake the guy when he's 7 yards away. Saquon needs to do one of two things: either truck the guy or run away from them. The only time he should be shaking is when it's traffic behind the line and he needs to jump cut. He's not this guy. That's got to go. So yeah, it's a combination of all those factors. I would say probably like 50% blame on the line, 30% blame on like the tendencies, formations, personnel packages, and the actual calls. So that's OC. And then 20% Saquon. And you could, there's probably, and some of the other miscellaneous factors as well kind of come in there. Tim asks, Seahawks cards, who you got? And I've actually done a little bit of work for Thursday Night Football, generating the matchup cards for their team over at Prime Vision. And I think the Seahawks are a pretty legit team. The cards, it's interesting. I got to look at their injury report because they've had a few guys where it's not clear if they're going to play. That's going to be a big factor there. So I would say Seahawks. They might give the Cards offense a lot of problems. It's amazing that Marvin Harrison hasn't figured out how to catch a ball. All right, here we go. Injury report for the Cardinals. So Will Johnson's doubtful. That's a big one. I'm sure the official ones are okay. They've announced them. Inactive. Zach Charbonnet is in. Paris Johnson is in. Will Johnson is out. Nick Emanwari is out. Yeah, I'll give it to the Seahawks. It is a fun game. I'm definitely interested to watch. Cardinals play a really multiple, interesting defense. Seahawks have a very aggressive attacking defense, more defensive linemen than they know what to do with, and a lot of interesting players in the secondary. I think, did Witherspoon miss a game recently? Let me see here. Yeah, so Witherspoon missed week 2 and 3. So is he back? Yes, he is. There you go. That's huge for them. Devin Witherspoon is back. There you go. So, yeah, I would go with the Seahawks. Drip asks, I have a question, loaded one. Is Petullo's main problem calling the wrong plays against the wrong schemes, or is it the design and execution bad? Yeah. I mean, to properly answer this, I'd have to write a lot of words. I think it's all of the above. Like, there should be more gap scheme. Let's just be concrete about it. There should be more spread sets, shotgun, runs, zone read, quarterback counter bash. They were very stubborn about running those two main combinations against zone the first couple weeks. They're running mesh variants on 3rd and longs multiple times against teams who had been playing consistently zone in those scenarios. There's got to be more vigilance. You got to put your players in better positions and execution. Like, Calcaterra cannot block. They're having motions where the guy just jogs into the abyss instead of, you watch other teams and they launch themselves downfield like it's Arena League football and they stress the coverage. Like, I'm not exonerating the players. And like, all of a sudden, AJ Brown was shot out of a cannon on film last week. Like, was he finally healthy? What was it? So it's definitely a multifaceted answer to that. And the Eagles know, it seems at this point, that they have to evolve. And I think one very telling quote from Hurts is, we've tried to play so many brands of football. We got to get out of that. Like, we're not this condensed set under center team. Like, I brought this up previously. Like, there's two teams that it reminded me of, which is, it's like they were trying to be Detroit. And at times they were trying to be like the 2015 Patriots, where they're just trying to like hit little completions. And then they're trying to bring people in and run condensed sets and try to get like extra guys in blocking in the run game. It's, do not try to outnumber the defense, because what you're doing is you're saying, to outnumber the defense, who am I going to bring in? Calcaterra, Kylan Granson, maybe even the receivers like Devontae or Jahan. It's a disaster. They need to keep all those guys out of there and then run against 6-man boxes. And that'll also make Saquon run better. So I think there is a bit of a domino effect there. All right. Getting close to the end here. Any last questions if you want to get them in? I'm honing in on the Eagles offense. I think the game comes down to them. If they can get the run game going, if they have a multitude of answers to the blitz, I think the Eagles will win. I don't think that the Bucs are going to have a field day on offense. They don't have enough of a like run game where on first down they're just getting 7 and 8 yards. Like, they're not really doing that. Maybe Jalen Carter's actually going to be conditioned by now, although the Tampa Heat is a big factor here. So maybe that's a scenario where they do have like 5 defensive linemen for that purpose. But, if everything goes the way I would expect it to on paper, I think Baker throws an interception. I think the Eagles are going to be able to hold up against 4-man rushes fairly well, because they have no interior pass rush with Kalijah Cansey out. They've got Reddick. Well, that's fine. We have Lane Johnson. They have Yaya Diaby. That's fine. We have Jordan Mailata. So to get pressure, they have to bring extras. So then that's why the whole game hinges on the answer to the blitz, because Bowles is going to blitz 1,000,000 times. Danny says, how does someone get hired as an NFL offensive coordinator and not know basic staples of designing a successful offense? And I don't I want to give them credit. Like, I think if you talk to all these guys, like in a private room, you would realize they know a lot more than maybe perception would leave you to believe. But you call play, play's done. Within 10 seconds, you got to have like the next play in. So maybe they're not thinking on their feet as much. Maybe their play sheet is partitioned in a way where they're never calling a play from over here in this situation. So they end up being rigid to their play sheet, and they never even get to the plays that they think are going to work because they're not in those situations, which is ridiculous. It's actually a thing that Andy Reid struggles with, which is he's so robotic, from my understanding, calling plays from his play sheet from the section of the situation that they're in. There are times where it's like, this is just the play we need to get to regardless of the situation. So I think flexibility, like the Eagles were backed up in their own territory in the first half over and over again. They had zero flexibility and they ended up not being able to move it out. And then they lose the field position battle and the Rams go down and score a bunch of points and they never can get the offense moving. And they say, only if we had that one first down. Well, that's where you need to say, screw it. Our backed up part of our play sheet, forget that. How about our third down money play just to get one first down, like pull from over there? So there's, I could go on and on. There's a lot of factors. So like situational awareness is one, being like cognizant of, okay, this is what we saw on tape. They alluded this in the press conference and they showed us a totally different look. We can't just be like, no, it's an unscouted look. What can we possibly do and play victim? You have to say, no matter what they do, we have a plan. And that could go beyond like, okay, if it seems like they're going to try to do this, we go over here. It could be within the play itself. Like each play needs to have answers to different looks that the defense gives you. Kurt Warner talked about that in our interview, which is one of his favorite plays. He said, no matter what coverage, it doesn't matter. A blitz, man coverage, cover 2, cover 3, cover 4. I always had an answer. It doesn't guarantee success because you still have to execute. But if you go and you say, all right, I really hope they're in cover 2 or else we're screwed, and then Jalen just makes something happen on your feet, that is a joke. So I think they're smart. I think they know a lot more than maybe people think they do. But in the course of a game, when you get punched in the mouth, does your plan just fall by the wayside? And it could be in preparation. Like maybe you over scheme towards looks that they end up not even putting out on the field, like they talked about with the Rams. Vincent says, what if I told you the play calling didn't change much, but the Rams defense changed since they were playing prevent? I think the play calling did change. They started to align Devontae and AJ in the slot more often. They got into more 3-by-1 looks. They got AJ isolated more. Obviously, they stopped running these runs into 1,000 different people. But the Rams did play softer defense, and they did bring these ridiculous blitzes from 20 yards away that didn't even come close to getting home, which was terrible job by Shula. Both him and McVay completely melted. Bowles won't do that. Bowles will put the guys as close to the quarterback as they possibly can and then bring them. Here I come, and you better be ready. And with that, another episode of Eagles Edge. If you want to talk about the game up until Sunday, you can shoot me a message on Twitter. Until then, go Birds.